was a bit over 30 years ago that I got involved with what is now known as VSA Arts Rhode Island. Graham Greene said, "There's always one moment in childhood when the door opens and lets the future in," and I learned the truth of that because of Trinity Rep. I grew up in the next mill town over. My great-grandmother was brought to America when she was 9 years old to work in Pawtucket Slater Mill. Several generations of factory workers later, and it's the early 1950s, Rhode Island is in the grip of the polio epidemic. Each summer, polio came like the plague. Public pools were closed, theaters warned people not to sit too close to one another, people started refusing to shake each other's hands. 55,000 cases were reported in 1 year in Rhode Island. Thousands were paralyzed and forced to use iron lungs. The public was horribly and understandably frightened by polio. There was no prevention, no cure, and there was nothing a parent could do to protect their family. Mom and Dad were thrown into this terrifying world when I was diagnosed at 3 months old. And let me tell you, the treatment for polio is intense. Feel free to think of Dr. Frankenstein working on you here. I had bones sawed out of one place, moved to another. Muscles were transplanted and screwed in where they didn't belong. Other people's bone marrow were inserted into mine. I wore heavy metal leg braces, and long about the 5th or 6th time that I had to figure out how to work normally, which meant with 2 legs, my parents decided to let me just stop the surgeries and just use crutches. But through all of this roller coaster childhood, I had art. Exploring and creating art in my hospital bed got me through the idea that I was damaged and needed to be fixed. And so any success I have had is a testament to the power of art. So the door, Graham Greene's door. One day, a bus shows up at school and takes our class from school to the RISCA auditorium. The interior was transformed into an 18th century warship. We were surrounded. A cannon was pointed at us and fired. Unruly kids screamed, but paid attention. Sailors climbed all around the audience. Trapdoors flew open. Water splashed. It was a performance by a new theater company named Trinity Repertory and part of an early National Endowment for the Arts education program called Project Discovery. The play was Billy Budd, and it was about an individual fighting against the system. God, it spoke to me. It was mind-blowing. It was the first time I had seen art as activism. There was attitude, there was passion, and damn, it was good. And this was followed by Trinity actors holding theater and improvisation workshops on Saturday. Kids from around the state showed up. The freaks, the geeks, the misfits, and nobody was any more or less weird than anybody else. It was visionary, inclusive in the best possible way, and transformative. It helped me realize that what I needed was a life in the artistic community. And I'll always be grateful to Trinity Rep and Project Discovery for kicking open that door. Now, I was going to go through it and find my tribe. I headed to college for arts and theater, and then New York City. Things were, of course, difficult, but I wasn't going back. Sure, I had been bullied as a child, but now I discovered something else, that I was living in a world that deliberately made being a woman with a disability a stigma. In the performance world, a lot of roles were wrapped up in assumptions about disability, and metaphors based on disability were certainly welcome as plot points, but performers with disabilities actually were not. Directors and producers were just not comfortable casting an actor with a disability, even for a character with a disability. The thing most people know about being disabled is that they don't want to be that, and it freaks them out to confront it. It's still sort of taboo, and I really just don't want it to be. Fortunately, art doesn't exist in a vacuum. I discovered like-minded souls in the guerrilla girls who fought sexism and racism in the art world, joined protests that Queer Nation organized, and we all began to act up. And at the Capitol crawl, over 60 activists abandoned their wheelchairs and crutches, crawled up the 83 stone steps to the U.S. Capitol building, and forced the legislature to pass the Americans with Disabilities. So freelance art jobs brought me back to Providence, which had an amazing, lively art and activism scene. And now, with VSA Arts Rhode Island at the intersection of art, education, and disability, I get to create inclusive programs with amazing partners and really exciting collaborations. I work with the incredible State Council on the Arts and remarkable art educators throughout the state. In our work partnering with RISCA Museum on visual art classes for adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities, these take place out throughout the galleries, and everybody passing through the museum gets to admire the intensity with which our artists immerse themselves in exploring and learning about art and creating great art. And as we mentioned, at Trinity Rep, Project Discovery is still going strong, and their training program provides performance experiences for youth connected through Rhode Island disability service organizations. Talk about opening doors. In 2014, Trinity was looking for an actor to portray a teenage girl with autism. Our participant in the TRAIN program with the Autism Project was cast for the part, and she was able, throughout rehearsals and a lot of post-show discussions, to help actors and audiences reconsider what was actually possible for a person with autism, and went on to receive VSA Arts Creative Advocate and Disability Award, commemorating the 25th anniversary of the ADA. But it wouldn't really be me without a little finger wagging. Trinity, A Christmas Carol gets done every year, and Tiny Tim is never going to get cured. So maybe we could start to look at that casting, huh? But please, go beyond these cultural anchors. Check out Gear Productions in South County that creates positive performance opportunities for people of all ages and abilities. Go to some events at the Southside Cultural Center. They have great things with the Rhode Island Black storytellers there. Or, maybe find that surprising strange attractor and see what they're up to next. Don't rely on an art critic to tell you that outsider art is powerful. Here, we don't label our artists as out or in. Come to the Sherlock Show VSA Arts has in March with RISCA at the Atrium Gallery. The artwork there presents a rich and diverse backdrop that reveals that what defines these artists is not your preconceived notions of disability, but their passion for creating art. Or come to Pawtucket and I'll take you over to Flying Shuttles, which does the most amazing visual artwork and textile work still happening in Pawtucket in our state. Rhode Island's smaller organizations are what makes the arts in our state strong and vibrant, diverse and accessible. So your support, especially of artists who are often thought of as disadvantaged rather than creators, is important. There are many doors that might open for all of us. And I know when it comes to equality related to disability, gender, race, or sexuality, the battles seem endless and the victories really kind of small and far between. But really, I am buoyed by the amazing things that happen when Michelle creates a work of art to hang on the wall at RISCA Museum, and Graziella rolls to the front of the auditorium to read her poetry, and Jim takes up the baton to conduct the music class. These are the bright lights that mark the path for me. But the truth is, rather than see myself as a leader, I see that quite often I just get pissed off at the status quo, get stubborn, and work to align myself with others who are also upset so we can tackle our challenges and do this work together. We've got far to go, so I better get back to work. or maybe a cocktail first. Thank you very much.